first look at the 5 names. These are the 5 guys that'll be competing in this sequence on Candlepin Stars and Strikes. We already introduced you to Dave Richards and Glen Shattuck for today's match. The winner today will move on to face our number 3 seed John Patorsky next week. Pat Pay, good to see Pat back in the lineup here on Stars and Strikes. It's been more than a couple of years for him. And Bob Kelly, our number 1 seed, almost lapping the field there by 33 pins, taking the number 1 spot. So there you have a look at the bowlers to come in this series on Stars and Strikes. But to get our very first match of the new year started, it's Dave Richards. And Dave doesn't waste any time.
No, that's for sure. 3, 6, 10 and right, plus the 4-pin. No wood to help him, and we're off. 1994.
And almost for Dave. Mentioned he's been with us a couple of times on Stars and Strikes doubles this season. The last time Dave was here in singles competition was for the 1992 Tournament of Champions. He came in as the number 2 seed and lost a very tough semifinal match to Mike Morgan, who that year, if you'll recall, came in as the number 4 seed for the tournament and zipped off 4 straight wins to win the title. And Dave Richards was one of his victims, 404 to 395.
He leaves that one to the right. Ball spinning, but didn't break at all for him. And he'll be open the first 2.
$19 it is for Dave. And now our very first look here on the wins at Glen Shattuck, guy that you're familiar with, Dan.
Absolutely. I've known Glen for years. Glen's a pretty good athlete, no matter what he tries. So, and as I said at the beginning of the show, one of the bowlers that's been trying for a good number of years and finally made the show. Persistency.
Well, I think that applies to a lot of people who get on the show. And how about that to start it off?
Well, regardless what happens now, he can tell him the first box he threw in front of the lights was a spare. And a good one was that. At that, it was easy for me to say.
I know you're a little nervous with Glen on the show.
Yeah, he's, carrying the Concord torch, Leaves himself the 5 and the 10. Tries to cut the 5.
It's interesting. Sometimes when folks come on the program for the first time, they tell us tales of how many years they've been trying to make it and how long it's been before they finally got here. And other times, I believe it was Bob Johnston earlier this year, said he had only tried maybe 4 or 5 times and he was able to finally crack through. So you never know. And I think that's the beauty of it, is it's an open competition. Here on the singles program, of course, it's open men and women. And to this day, people still think there's an entry fee involved. There is no entry fee, semifinals or finals. All you're doing is bowling, regular price of bowling. Nice spare by Dave Richards. His first mark, and a good one, and we'll get another look at it.
A stubborn 9-pin, but there it goes. But people have to realize it's just practice. Go out, bowl 5 games in a semifinal, roll off, and if you're in the top 5, you advance to the finals for another 5 games. And if nothing else, you get a chance to bowl against some of these fellows who've been on the show before.
No, not quite for Dave. And the 10. 45 through 4. Glen Shattuck from Concord, New Hampshire. Glen works at St. Paul's School. He has a daughter, Alexis. And he does a lot of his bowling at a pretty fine establishment in Concord known as Boutwell's Bowling Center.
Great place. Ooh, the 5 and the 7 this time. Last time it was 5 and 10 for Glen.
Glen leads by 3 here in the early going.
Glenn, very deliberate, turns the ball over a little bit, breaks the ball from right to left. Four horsemen plus the 5 pin.
We begin the brand new year here on Stars and Strikes with one of our old friends sponsoring this series on the program, Emmett Horgan and the gang at Rockingham Toyota Dodge Nissan. Come to Salem and save. Rockingham Toyota Dodge Nissan right on Main Street, Route 97 in Salem, New Hampshire.
Dave Richards for his 5th and 6th frames. And he'll shoot at the 3 and the 6. Piece of wood there, but I don't think it's going to come into play. In fact, it's rolling off.
Ooh, Dave chops it.
Flush on the 3 pin. Drove it straight back. Ball missed the 6 pin.
Gets it that time for a 55 half in the opening game.
Both bowlers not consistently on the head pin with that first ball, which is the name of the game. You hit the head pin consistently with that first ball, then you start to score. Dave's looking at the 1, the 3, 7, and 10.
No.
Got the head pin that time, but again, too full.
And it's an 8 for Dave. Mentioned at the top of the show that we are halfway through the season in terms of qualifying bowlers for the, do you believe it, the 6th annual Tri-State Megabucks Tournament of Champions. And the 3 guys who are already safely in are Joe Ashline, Peter Flynn, and Mark Gregory. And one of the guys from this group is going to join them. Might want to start mentioning, too, that... Oh, not quite for Glenn. The 6 pin hangs around. I want to mention, too, Dan, that beginning 4 weeks from today, which will be January 30th, we'll start our annual mixed doubles series here on Stars and Strikes, Sunday at noon. A little bit later on in the year, we're going to have something a little bit different, a bit of a surprise for you on our doubles program on Saturdays at noon. We'll tell you more about that as it gets a little closer.
Just missing the head pin.
But we can tell you that it'll be Candlepin bowling as you have never seen it on television before.
Absolutely.
Something completely new.
And no one has ever done it, at least in this area. And
that's right.
Their minds are going crazy at home. What could that possibly be?
Called a tease. Dave Richards punches right through the center for the spread eagle. Dave trailing by 4 in the match.
Bowling with your opposite hand. Gets rid of the 3, 6, 10 on the right, 2, 4, 7 on the left.
And a nice 10 box.
Bowling blindfolded.
All these are good ideas,
That's
Dan,
right.
but not
right. He kicks out the 4 pin, leaves himself the 3, 6, 10, and a nice piece of wood in between the 3 and the 6. Oh!
No, I think the wood may have prevented him from making that shot.
Said that was a nice piece of wood. However, you're right. I think it cost him the 10 pin.
Covers at that time. But 2 more open frames for Dave Richards and a chance for Glen Shattuck to add to his lead. Glen right on the head pin, but a little bit too much of it.
Yeah, it was crossing over into 1-2 and it was a little heavy.
We talked about how Bob Kelly had a comfortable margin at the top of this series with a 33-pin edge in the #1 spot over our #2 seed Pat Pay, but the scores from that point on got